Hi, welcome back. Yeah, we're just going to keep it going here in 2015. Allard is over, so we're just going to keep pumping the videos out and pumping on what the monopolies doing in Canada. Right now, what I see the MMP are doing is continuing to advance potentially into the BC market. And it's something we continue to report on here at Cannabis in Canada. And we've had several different club owners and people within the industry come on to talk about this. And we're going to continue that here today. On the show today, I have Rohan Gardner and Paul Hunt.
Thanks,
For
Jason.
coming on, guys.
Thanks so much.
Now, Rohan, I'd like to get your take just right openly. Now, the Green Cross is the second oldest club in Vancouver.
Yes.
Okay, you have served numerous people. You've done peer-reviewed studies. Like, we're going to get into all the stuff that the Green Cross has done. You have the second oldest club being the Providence here in BC.
Established in 2005, opened our doors early 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 10 years.
10 years.
10 years that you've been in business. So again, second oldest club. Now, what's your take that they want to come in now and regulate this and some of the ways that it's being done based on our own experience? And we've all, of course, we go back a decade together.
Of course.
So this information that is now before us, what is your take from your own research with your lawyers and your own club board? What's your take as a media spokesperson for the Green Cross on this proposal?
Well, it was inevitably going to happen, of course, especially with all the growth in the last few years. I mean, as we know, us being the second oldest in the city, and after the BC Compassionate Society, things were done a lot differently back then. When we opened our doors, we went through a year of litigation with the city alone. Paul, the president, and some of the existing directors, Steve Burris, Connie Gerard. Really was a whole lot different back then. When we opened our doors, we went through protocol and procedures and policies with the city on what they expected. And of course, a lot of the clubs don't do the same stringent protocol as we have.
I would actually, on that note, I mean, we were just talking about this before we came on air, and I'd say this now, that what you guys have done, including peer-reviewed studies, bringing in a doctor, going back to Dr. Hornby even, doing your first peer-reviewed studies, bringing in a gas chronometer, whatever it's called there, to actually do the testing on the cannabis, setting the precedence for other clubs to follow. And of course, I remember the different innuendos and stuff that came with that, because of course you were putting more cost into the operational. You were putting money back into your membership.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think it can't be underscored. Now, my understanding is you did a peer-reviewed journal on yourself.
I did. Well, and back to that, I mean, Dr. Paul Hornby was our head on analytical for the first, I believe, until 2008, and since it's been Dr. Manju Sharma. And it's very important to us that we do test all of our cannabis, but at the same time, we've involved our membership with a lot of strain-specific needs testing, like on myself, and we'll get to that again, as well as pain management, of course, harm reduction. It's all been a big part of being a nonprofit society and giving back to our membership since day one.
So, sorry, on that note, so for the nonprofit status, just so our viewers understand when we're talking about the proposal, because that's what this ties into, having that nonprofit status, of course, gives you kind of a leg up, so they say.
Well, it does. We've done a lot of our research with our team, and it looks like what was 82 open clubs in Vancouver when we did the study about 10 days back. It looks like there's about 86 now open. And at the same time, of those 86, from what we understand, there's only 51 that are based groups. Of those 51 groups, only 9 are based on a true nonprofit society. Of those 9, there's only 4 based on a nonprofit dispensary model. Of those 4, there's only 2 that are a member-driven nonprofit dispensary, us and the BC Compassion Society, which kind of puts us at the top of the tier, I'd say.
That's interesting, because I know, and now from my own, now I'll speak to this because I've been at the LIFT conference, I've been at the CMACD gathering there, and listened to what these people had to say who are in charge of dispensaries and are in charge of what's going on. I see them representing CMACD at one meeting and saying, come join us because you're going to get a license and you're going to be able to continue doing what you're doing in a legal framework. At the same time, I go to another meeting and I see someone like Hillary from the British Columbia Compassion Club Society representing Bedrocan, an established licensed producer. Absolutely. So it makes me lend to wonder if there isn't already somewhat of clause, if you have it into, again, this might be the natural evolution, this might be the natural morphing that's going to happen. I think we need to maybe talk about or look at it, if this isn't the LP's way of reaching in with some of the oldest clubs first on Victoria Island and here, but really only allowing a couple in.
it's tough to say. It remains to be seen what will happen. I mean, the Green Cross and the way we've viewed the whole situation, and of course, being a board and member-run society, but all decisions are, of course, a board decision. We're going to continue with what we do at this point, and where we've had a really large influx of people since the media has approached us, and of course the media has released the information trying to get membership within our club. And at the same time, we're going to continue with the same protocol. And
now, when you say same protocol, now are you going to apply for one of the licenses if they allow you to apply?
We are definitely applying for a license. I mean, there is going to be, I'm sure, a lot of membership involvement when it comes down to it. I mean, what it really comes down to is I believe, and we believe as a member-run society, really a true non-profit-based society, that not all the clubs in Vancouver are based on the same level, and especially when it comes to the $35,000, especially if you're a non-profit and a true non-profit, it seems like a really impossible number to reach at this point in time.
Well, CNC reporting has definitely showed that licensed producers have, in fact, solicited or other dispensary owners here in Vancouver for their memberships. Mm-hmm. They don't want their locations; they want their membership base. That's more valuable, and rightfully so. I think the dispensary supply 50,000 people. Has any LPs approached the Green Cross Society in solicitation of your membership base?
I've heard of indirectly people being approached, but we've never considered anything. And of course, we've been doing this on the same note since day one, following the vision that Paul and the rest of the directors had. One reason it's really a privilege and an honor to be a part of the Green Cross. I'm a true believer, as you are, in the movement, but at the same time, that it shouldn't be a manufactured situation controlled by the federal government. You know, there's a lot of people who have been giving back for a long, long time on a harm reduction level, pain management studies, client-based studies within our membership, whether it's back to Haley Rose, who was an original member, Dr. Paul Hornby and his studies involving her, of course, along the lines of, I mean, so many patient-based studies.
This is my fear, is that they're going to take this away from us. They're going to take away that frontline service that I've relied on as a 22-year HIV-positive person. You know, I've relied on the clubs, I've relied on the experience to right down to growing my first outdoor plants. Hillary was the one to give them to me. You know, some orange chemo, I remember growing them out in my backyard. You know, this was my introduction because it helped me with my antiretroviral treatment. So I'm thinking about this frontline service is now going to be a mail order service and a doctor that's not qualified to speak to cannabis because there's no medical value for cannabis in the country, Canada. And here they are now coming in saying, well, we're gonna regulate the clubs and we're gonna have a lottery and we're gonna do this. I guess my concern is we have a map that we're gonna be releasing soon with Cannabis in Canada, which X's out almost 75% of the clubs by virtue of daycares, parks, whatever that's within the regulations, been very vetted out. And it's highly concerning to me when you see this boxed up and the fact that they lied to City Hall when they said medical patients are the legal supply for dispensaries. Now I ask you this, after you invest $35,000 and you come into compliance and however much that might cost you, if they come to you and say, now you either shut down and face Bill C-10, or you have the option to become legal, but you have to sell licensed producer cannabis and put a doctor in your facility, what would be the Green Cross's position be?
Well, we're always looking at moving forward, and we've always abided by the city. We've always had an open door policy with the VPD. And back to it, I mean, that's why I say things were a lot different when we opened our doors. We've always complied, and we've tried to have direct communication with them, and we still are. Indirectly, I can't really speak about everything that's going on within the Green Cross. A lot of it's privileged information. At the same time, we believe that we will still maintain our focus and our drive, and we'll definitely be able to remain open. At this point in time, it just remains to be seen what's going to happen. I mean, the stipulations, and not just being on a financial basis, but, and I mean, on a larger concern to me, it's, of course, extractions, concentrates, something we'll talk about maybe later. But I mean, I'm working alongside 57 individuals with cancer on a one-on-one basis who need a concentrated form of THC, which is the first step in when you're talking about curing cancer.
R versus Smith is hopefully going to fix that.
Absolutely it is.
At the same time, R versus Smith is fundamentally based on the principle that myself as a medical patient that grows it or buys it can make an extraction for my personal consumption, but not for resale. Only the LPs are going to benefit off R versus Smith. you know, and also they're trying to become more restrictive now with the clubs. Mm-hmm. And, you know, again, I went to the LIFT conference and I listened to the LPs. What's on their long-term agenda is already extractions and how to dispense them. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to what's in that proposal because it certainly isn't in edible form.
Yeah, and it is a shame on that note that we weren't approached as a whole or any of the clubs directly before this happens. As I said, we've had some communication since because it's quite a concern, of course, to us. But at the same time, I mean, hopefully there'll be some more direct communication with the city before it goes to the next step, and we'll know a lot more of what they're looking for.
Well, we definitely want to talk. Now let's talk about the Green Cross holistically, second oldest club. Now let's talk about the 3 peer-reviewed journals that at least I'm related to.
Okay.
You got John Bear Fellow.
Absolutely.
You've got Haley that you guys did tremendous work with. You've got Mr. Hunt, who's sitting here. Mm-hmm. You did a peer-reviewed study. I guess 4.
There's been many studies. I mean, ongoing right now, we're doing studies with the Center for Lyme Disease and, I mean, Dr. Murakami, and there's been amazing strides made with CBD, of course, when it comes to that, kind of specifically, as
where I'm going with this is the direct peer-reviewed studies that came from your society, the doctors you hired, the money you put back into your membership to quantify and verify what they say isn't medicine for medical patients with cancer, with HIV, and with multiple sclerosis.
Absolutely.
This is what matters, and the kids.
Absolutely.
Haley. So this is what matters, and these peer-reviewed journals is what I implore people, go to the greencross.org website and check them out, and look at some of the work that's been done, because this is what matters to me, because if they take this service away, those little think tanks that we've provided ourselves in the underground, if you have it, and in the gray area of the law as medical patients and working within the clubs, you know, and trying to help each other out, if they take that away, they're going to force us back underground. Now, the coalition successfully just protected our gardens, in my own opinion. But I always told people when they're done with us in Allard, they're going to come for you.
Absolutely.
So, forward-looking now, do you have any fears for the culture?
Well, my concern is, I mean, even if we make this step forward, well, whether or not they allow the true nonprofits to remain nonprofits remains to be seen. But forwarding on that note, what will happen when it comes to, of course, suppliers and everything else? It seems like everything is moving on that note, which we all assumed it would. Anyone who's been in the industry for a long time, it's progressed a lot quicker than we thought, definitely. And that's due to, of course, the amount of clubs popping up all over and the different protocol and policies. They could have regulated it a little bit at the beginning on a certain kind of standard level, and it would have been held in check a lot better. I've also seen a grid myself, and I mean, it looks like there can be a maximum of 50 clubs, and a lot of the clubs coexisting, and a lot of the older clubs as well, will have to close their doors and relocate. So, I mean...
Well, when we release our map, stay tuned to cannabiscanada.ca, because when this map comes out, it'll show that we all exclude each other. All the clubs knock each other out, pretty much 75%, and in those that are going to be able to move, it comes down again. Now, I understand you guys are one of the lucky clubs that are able to actually find somebody that will insure you as a dispensary that sells medical marijuana.
We do. We've actually found 2 that would, and I mean, of course, it was quite a large search, but there's 2 in Canada that will insure medical companies. Pardon me, I don't have the information with me today. Of course, we'd be willing, and of course, anything we can help any of the other clubs in Vancouver with.
How can people get a hold of you? Do you have an email address or a direct way that our viewers can get a hold of the Green Cross in relation to stuff like this, like if they want to know more?
Absolutely. You can get a hold of us at the Green Cross Society of BC.com or .ca and leave any questions. Or, of course, we have a Facebook account, Green Cross of British Columbia.
So I got it wrong. Greencross.org isn't up anymore?
It is org. It's org, CA, org. Of course, it's all of them.
Definitely. Well, we know you're strong on Facebook, and of course with Mr. Hunt serving from the beginning of the coalition to seeing us finally achieve our objectives and still a sitting board member. Again, this lends once more to how much work you as a body in your dispensary has done for the community, and this is what I want to continue to expose here on Cannabis in Canada to our viewers and to those others that are watching. There's a lot of people watching us. They're listening to what we're saying, and they're wondering what's going on in our thinking. I want them to understand what's in my thinking, that they're messing with what's a personally functioning oiled machine here in British Columbia for the medical patients, and they're going to mess with that by trying to implement their idea of clinics. I don't need a freaking doctor who says, I can't look it up in my book, trying to tell me about cannabinoids or the endogenous system. Go back to school, doc. First, justify it as medicine in the country of Canada before they try and tell you guys that they're going to say our dealers, when really you're healers.
That's
right. See, this is a thing. The government is just slowly doing this, and this is my concern. We cannot allow at least without putting up a fight or putting up a public stance, to let them know that they're wiping out a model that is successful for patient and has proven successful, not only here, but in California and other states. And in Colorado, they're not trying this stuff. A top-down monopoly is not going to work.
No.
People will push back, and God knows what's going to happen if they push us underground. When we go back to our phone systems, we go back to generators, what do?
There's always going to be the need, and there's always going to be a client base, that's for sure.
And
we're in it for the long run.
Gas war. See, this is what worries me. I say price war, gas war. People say, what do you mean gas war? I mean price war, guys. I mean, there's an underground, there's a market here in British Columbia especially, there's a brand name. And these guys are trying to take it over. If they force these dispensary owners underground and their memberships, they're going to continue to operate through dialysis systems and delivery systems. And that just can't be stopped. That's just a reality that this is what I fear about tearing our culture apart and displacing patients and patients' reasonable access to cannabis.
Very true. And that's why one reason, the city, another big point that I might as well bring up is testing. Back to the doctors we have on board, now it's Dr. Sharma. We test all of our products as well for cannabinoid profiles as well as things you don't want in your medicine. This is a big thing I think that should be implemented, and I think the city really approves of it. There's been a lot of talk, as I said. I can't disclose everything, and back to it, this really affects our membership and how productive we can be in the way of tracking how this is as truly as a medicine, because it's not just been about, of course, it is about our membership first and foremost, but we have compiled data and done the proper studies, Dr. Sharma and Dr. Hornby, which, speaks for itself. The information's there, and this is a medicine for so many people on so many levels, as we both know, right? So.
Well, we've been doing this for a decade. And,
absolutely.
And, some of us for even longer. Mr. Hunt's been in this for a very long time. And we're going to continue to expose this. Guys, thanks for coming on Cannabis in Canada.
Thank you, Jason.
And thanks for giving us a show. Now, I'm going to ask you now in advance to come back on the show and keep us updated as this progresses, because should they make a shift against a good standing club, we certainly want to be here to expose it and let them know once again they're messing with a perfectly good model that doesn't need to be played with until they themselves, Canada, can address medical marijuana as actually being medical. This is Jason Wilcox, and we'll see you in the next show. Cheers.